because, the bust had happened, everything was sinking. I figured they would be gone, 2 years later. They're still going strong, but I'm not bitter about being laid off. Not at all. Anyway, May of 1999, I had been working there since January, and I had not come out as trans to them yet. I had been transitioning for several months at that point. As a matter of fact, September 18th, upcoming September 18th, is my 10-year anniversary of being on hormones. Blows my mind, let me tell you. But I was only out to my friend Summer, who was the admin of the big boss of our department. I mean, I had I wore gothed out makeup, and I had black hair with bangs and pigtails all the time, but I was, a web programmer in 1999 in San Francisco. No one gave it any thought at all. Didn't occur to anyone it might be a gender thing, so they just let me go on about my business. Anyway, we went on an forced group team building exercise called Fun Day. Anything official with the word fun in it sucks. I don't know if you noticed that or not. This was a trip to Angel Island. And then after Angel Island, that very same day, this was actually right from my online diary. I wrote it the next day, Saturday, May 8th, 1999. Those of you with your iPhones can go ahead and follow along. This is what happened. After Angel Island, we went to a Mexican restaurant in Tiburon. 19 of us, and most everyone had been boozing to some degree, except myself. Whatever I didn't ingest was more than made up for by the big boss, who was several linen sets to the wind and showed no signs of slowing down. Margaritas and tequila body shots were the order of the day. What do drunk people with disposable income do? Not falling into that category, I can't speak from personal experience, but based on my observation, they start finding ways to spend that money, preferably by daring other people to do unsavory things. It occurs to me that when you're drunk, probably all income is considered disposable. Just a thought. This had started back at the island, actually. $200 for a guy to strip naked and run into the water. And the money was collected fair and square. I leaned over Summer and asked her jokingly how much she thought I could get for showing my breasts. Her eyes lit up and she stood. Pointing to me, she said, $500 to see her breasts. It wasn't a stunned silence exactly. More like a very confused one as the collective alcohol-soaked brain tried to figure out what the hell she was talking about. Finally, someone said what they thought needed to be said. That's a guy. The proper, or at least mildly clever response would have been, not for long. Instead, I got clinical and said I'd been on hormones since September. Someone else, the fellow who'd made the $200 earlier in the day by skinny dipping into the bay, piped up and said, "You've got man breasts?" Oh, I bristled at that one in a big way. No, they aren't man breasts, whatever the fuck those are. They're naturally developing breasts. It became clear very quickly that getting quibbly about definitions wasn't going to do much good at the moment. Besides, there were drunk people much more willing to put on a show than I was. After a minute or two, I ceased being the center of attention. Many the male animal finds the lure of the heretofore unexplored breast to be quite irresistible, and such was the case with the big boss. As it implied, he was easily drunker than damn near everybody else put together, and his frat boy roots were showing like my brown ones had done the week before I got my hair colored. He did stay realistic in one respect, though. He was utterly terrified that the word of, anything that was happening would make it back to a particular honcho in HR. Mostly the stuff which involved men and women having what might be considered inappropriate physical contact. I didn't say that I would talk to the honcho, but apparently someone joked that I might, because the big boss sat down next to me and made me promise I wouldn't say anything to them. I agreed, and then for some reason pulled my shirt taut against my right breast and assured him that it was quite real. With all the skill of the career groper, nanoseconds later his hand was firmly squeezing my breast, after which he stood up with arms upraised triumphantly and said, "I felt Jeff's tit! Woo!" Like most classic frat guys, the big boss was quite the woo-er. Still, he admitted that it actually felt very real, and I'd grown tired of explaining that it was real, and that he could tell it was real because he was once involved with a stripper who had breast implants, and it was really obvious that they were fake, and he couldn't go any farther with her because of that, but mine clearly weren't fake, and he realized what he was saying, or at least who he was saying it to, and mumbled something about not being able to go any further with me, practically spun on his heel and walked away. To his credit, the man can hold his alcohol, assuming I understand what the phrase means. He stayed on his feet and never seemed to get nauseous. Even on the ferry back to San Francisco, which was bobbing and rocking enough to unsettle even the uninebriated passengers. And those not being unsettled by the boat were no doubt being unsettled by him. I've been around my share of obnoxious drunks, yet I still felt like I was witnessing the setting of a new standard. He was constantly boasting of having felt me up, which I suppose is flattering in a vaguely sick, shallow way. So on the ferry, I decided to take him down a notch. I assured him that it was as close as he would ever get, and what's more, someday soon I was going to be incredibly hot, and he would never have me. It seemed to work. Better yet, he repeated what I'd said to someone else for confirmation. They looked at me for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yep." Being his girl Friday, it fell upon Summer to take him from the ferry dock to the office, maybe a 20-minute walk under normal circumstances. Given that these were not normal circumstances, I assisted her in that arduous task. After traversing maybe 5 minutes distance in 10, he was simply impossible to control, and the leg-humping motions he kept making were profoundly disturbing. We wised up and hailed a cab. Thankfully, someone else offered to drive him home, sparing Summer that one last chore. I'm really curious to see how much of it he remembers come Monday. Probably something about feeling my tit, at the very least. Though why he would have done so in the first place might be fuzzy. Just so long as he remembers the assorted raises and stocks he promised to many people, there shouldn't be too much trouble. Otherwise, HR might need to get involved, and certainly nobody wants that. Thank you.